So you sent out a new I've been thinking, let's be thinking, I've been thinking over the weekend. And I obviously, because of my guilty conscience, felt like everything was directed at me. Those are my own problems, and I should probably see a therapist. um, but yeah, I thought there were some good ones in there, and definitely food for thought. Um, and maybe I'll tell you some of the things that I'm doing as we go along.
Okay. Well, is there anything in particular that you want to chat about? I, I started this one with a few quotes. Sorry, I'll ask you a question and then
No, that's okay.
but I'll um, and these were just kind of quotes that I collected over a period of time, and they all spoke to me and so on. If I have to pick one quote out there that really resonated with me, it is the Jordan Peterson one. It
Yeah.
says every bit of responsibility you don't pick up for yourself, tyrants will take and use against you.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow, it's maybe it's using the word tyrants. So it's not just other people will
Yeah.
use against you, but tyrants. And I, I do think that that is a fairly common feeling these days, is that tyrants are kind of using things against us
Yeah.
that that they shouldn't have.
Yeah. It's a bit like taking away the power from someone
Yeah,
by accepting or acknowledging or seeing the problems in yourself, so someone else can't point them out for you.
yeah. And look, I think at the bottom of this point, I said, look, there's a theme here. Take responsibility, because everything was about we must take responsibility, and it's obviously um, something that I take seriously, and I try to look at ways in which I can take more responsibility for myself,
Mm-hmm.
um, and in slightly different ways maybe than I've done in the past as we face new challenges, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Um, anyway, so that was kind of the
Yeah.
what stood out for you.
So for me, the first quote you have there definitely hit a nerve. So the one of the most dangerous things you can do is treat a fixable problem as part of your identity. Then you'll never fix it. And I think I've
Yes.
brought it up quite a few times on this podcast and in our conversations personally that um, I have an addiction to food, to binge eating. When I'm bored, when I'm happy, when I'm sad, like my go-to is to eat. And I know it's unhealthy and I know it's not good for me. Maybe it wouldn't be a bad thing if I went for healthy food, but I always go for the most convenient, easiest option. Um, and I hate myself afterwards. So I think it's something that I've been struggling with for a really long time. And often I will talk myself into doing something that I know is wrong because I'll say, "Oh, well, it's not. It's it's an addiction. It's not my. I don't have a
Yeah.
choice here. This is just the way that I am. It's a part of me. So sometimes I know that I shouldn't do something, and I'll excuse it
Yeah.
before I do it. Anyway, I have to do that a lot with myself. I have to negotiate with myself to do things like go for a walk or put on my gym clothes in the
Okay.
morning. So there's definitely
Okay.
an internal battle on a lot of things that I do.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a Paul Graham quote. I mean, he's just a phenomenal writer for somebody whose job is not really writing, but he's really good at it. And um, you often get people hiding behind, um, you know, people like us. Um, it runs in the family.
Mm-hmm.
There are all of these kind of excuses.
Yeah.
Um, so what I took out of that is listen, before I just say, people like us or whatever, is kind of do a little bit of homework and make sure that is the case,
Yeah.
so that I don't use that as an excuse. Um, anyway, yeah. Well, then I kind of this thing about equality is a fallacy. It
Yeah.
seems like it is such a common. It is common knowledge that equality is a fallacy,
Mm-hmm.
and yet it seems like we every day there's more and more people screaming for equality or demanding equality, etc. Um, and I just try and make the distinction there, in terms of, well, I'm not the equal of a burglar or a murderer or a terrorist, and I'm not the equal of a poet or a painter or a composer. So some of these people I kind of see below me, and some of them I see way above me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the main point is I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't begrudge the person who has the ability and the skill to paint beautiful paintings or, you know, bake lovely cakes or whatever. And it it just seems like a natural thing for me to understand that I am not that person's equal.
Mm-hmm.
And then there are people that I honestly, genuinely feel like they are not my equal.
Yeah.
They are scum of the earth. They will never be my equal.
Yeah.
And I cannot be expected to treat them equally.
Yeah. And yet there's a
Anyway,
constant battle for equality. People trying to fight for equality.
absolutely.
Yeah. I liked.
But
I watched a lot of comedy over the weekend, and I watched
yeah,
Trevor Noah's latest one as well, and he made a comment about America and politics, and he said, these things that we all fight each other over, no one was like. No one's worrying about those things until someone puts it in your head. Like the thing about the transgender bathrooms. He's like, who's standing at the entrance to a toilet and checking what you've got down
yes,
there to see if you should be in there or not? Like that wasn't an issue. It was a non-issue that people have made into a really big issue. Like girls go into the boys' bathrooms all the times if there's no queue, so no one's stopping you.
yeah, no, sure. Um, Look, I think that there's been a couple of cases where, especially boys going into the girls' bathrooms, which
Mm-hmm.
should definitely not be
Yeah.
allowed, especially not when we're talking about schoolgirls, etc., or university and so on. But um, anyway, so you're 100% correct.
Yeah.
There are a lot of these things which, well, that's just the popular thing at the
Well,
moment
it's just
to
to
complain
distract
about.
you from something else that they don't
Yes.
want you to be concerned about.
So I often, I think about this quite often about, what is going on around us in the world. For example, this morning that I learned that 54%, I may get one or two of these wrong. 54% of the people living in London are not British.
That wouldn't surprise me.
56% of people living in Amsterdam is not British. Not
Not
Dutch.
Dutch. Mm.
Rotterdam, I think, is 60%. Um, and what is the capital of Belgium? Brussels.
Brussels. I didn't want to say it in case I was wrong.
Shit. Brussels. I think Brussels is 70%
Yeah.
non-Belgian. Now, I don't know whether that is just because the European Parliament sits there and that's like a... Anyway, but it's shocking that, I mean, we know kind of what's happening in all of these European countries and so on. So what made me think about this now is you made the point that, you know, maybe they're telling us to look at check who's going into the bathrooms because they want to distract us from something else that's going on here. And I wonder whether there's actually something like that going on to distract us, and what is it that they're trying to distract us from? It seems like the immigrants just kind of taking over these cities in Europe. Well, that could have been one of the plans, and it was successful. How did that happen? I don't know. Did the locals not see this? Did the locals not get concerned about this? Did the locals not? I honestly don't know what the answers are and so on. But I wonder if we can give whoever they are the credit for hatching such a masterful plan, to know that tell us to man the bathrooms because that will distract us sufficiently so that they can execute plan B.
Yeah.
And I can't find an answer to that. But I'm starting to see more and more of a problem. And it's going to be interesting to see where and how that kind of resolves itself.
Yeah.
Anyway, I had a little bit of a rant here about health is wealth.
This is the one I really felt was directed at me because I had just told you about my blood test results.
No, unfortunately, you cannot get the credit. You cannot demand credit for this one.
The arrogance
Look,
of me.
this is, this is this is such a common problem.
Let's
And I must
read it
say,
out.
I had about I had at least another 4 paragraphs,
Okay, read the
which
one
I
you've got
eventually
there.
cut. So I said, you'd imagine that people who stick to the same diet and the same meds for the same ailment or condition year after year with little and often no improvement might start questioning their doctor, their medication, and their food. You would, and yet it seldom happens. Why? So I just left it there with the question why, because this is really something that I see quite a lot of. People continuing to take medication that was prescribed to them, I don't know,
Yeah.
however many years ago, without any um, any concern or regard for what the side effects of this medication is or might be. And it's often, the answer is often, well, my doctor said I must take
I
this.
was about to say we put a lot of trust in the doctors that they are doing the right thing for us.
Yeah, and they're not. And I wish more people would wake up
Yeah.
and see this and understand the damage that taking some of this medication is doing to themselves long
Yeah.
term. If you have been on any um, antidepressant for, I don't know, I think the labels of most of those things say do not use for longer than 3 months or something like that. But if you've been using something like that for, I don't know, 6 months, let alone 6 years, without investigating further, and the
Yeah.
fact that you're still taking it means that it doesn't work. That's fair to say, isn't it?
Well, it's
Because if it worked,
Yeah.
then you would stop taking. And the same with blood pressure medicine, and the same with statins, and the
Mm.
same with, I don't know, there's so many of these things where people just continue to follow
Yeah.
the prescription,
Yeah.
um, and not understanding what they're doing to themselves. And then, you know, these things compound, and then I have to take a second pill because of this other condition that
Yeah.
I now developed. Um, anyway, there was
You
just a little bit of frustration there.
you see it with people. I mean, I can say from looking at my parents and my grandparents, as they get older, there's just more and more pills that they have to take every day. Suddenly they're taking
Yeah,
three or four or five, and two in the morning and three in the evening, and yeah, you can just see it progressing. I mean, I
no,
can't
no,
talk. I take two pills every day, so and I'm in my mid
and
30s. So
and look, I fight it.
yeah,
I fight it in a responsible way. I would
yeah,
think, getting my blood test done, and then if something is not 100% correct, then I would say, okay, cool. What is the natural way
mhm,
to sort that out?
mhm,
And then I will try that.
yeah,
Um, so touch wood, I, I don't have to take anything. I don't have
yeah,
any condition that would typically require. But I've had cases where, um, I don't know, whatever on the blood test show a little low or a little high, and then the suggestion is made, well, why don't you take this?
mhm.
I go, no.
What
I,
else can I
so
do?
it's not. Yeah, what else
Yeah,
can I do? What's a
yeah,
natural way to do this? What can I eat more of, less of, that sort of thing, and
yeah,
so on. And then, obviously, anyway, it was just my little rant. I see people suffer unnecessarily.
yeah. So I can say just from my experience from living in the UK for 2 years and my NHS experience, it's so vastly different from the care I had with my doctor in South Africa, and it is incredibly frustrating. So I had a really good relationship with my GP in South Africa. Obviously, I paid for every appointment I went to with her, which is the difference here, is you don't have the option to pay for an appointment with a GP on the NHS. But so I get blood tests every year or more often if my levels have been funny and I need to regulate them, and this is for my thyroid. And the last three blood tests I've had, I just get an SMS from a different doctor every time telling me that they've increased the dosage of my medication because my blood tests were off, and they've sent the prescription to my pharmacy. Then I get a message from my pharmacy saying you can come collect your new meds, and there's no conversation. And I tried to
Mm,
reply to the most recent message saying like, can I come and see you? And I just didn't get a response. So I tried to call and I couldn't get hold of them. So this morning I reached out to a private GP just to say like, I've had blood tests done, I know what my levels are, but I would like to have a conversation with someone just to see what my options are. So
yes,
I'm hopefully going to get an appointment with another GP because it's definitely missing that personal like opportunity to just ask about it and understand what's happening.
exactly.
Yeah,
Or at least just from the healthcare professionals' point of view, is understanding what is, but now they're also just making certain assumptions. Do you know? But I think that this is correct. May have to do a fact check here, but in ancient China, you paid your doctor every month as long as you were healthy.
that's
If you got
clever.
sick, if you got sick,
Yeah,
then you didn't pay the doctor. So that incentivized the
yeah,
doctor to take good care of you.
yeah,
And I really like that model. I
yeah,
really like that model in terms of, well, that means that my doctor has got my health, um, as his primary concern, because it's also going to affect his income.
mm-hmm.
Whereas at the moment, the whole system is so perverse and skewed that I don't know. I don't think necessarily all doctors get money from drug companies, etc. But they've got to stay strictly between, you know, in these
Mm-hmm.
lanes, and as long as they do that, and I think I've also become so accustomed to people just actually wanting the prescription.
Yeah.
There's, all, there's this cartoon about the guy sitting at the doctor and saying, well, this is clearly a lifestyle problem. And then the patient says, well, doctor, do you expect me to change my lifestyle? And the doctor says, don't be silly, I'll give you pills for that. So that's unfortunately also what's happening.
Yeah.
And you see more and more of that happening with things like Ozempic and Wegovy in the US, Oh, okay, cool. I can still eat the supersized Big Mac and the whatever. I can just take a pill.
Yeah.
That's going to sort it out. Anyway, um, another
Yeah.
one of my, and then I, and then I concluded with life's ugly truths.
Yeah.
I kind of like to keep a little list of life's ugly truths, the things that we don't always want to accept,
Mm-hmm.
um, and this is just a list of a few that I've encountered in the last, I don't know, however long um, they've been accumulating on my list. Number one is hard work doesn't guarantee success.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way that we were all raised. You must work hard,
Yeah.
and then you will be successful. And then you look around and you see, but the drug dealers
Yeah.
and the pimps and they're the ones with the fancy cars.
Yeah.
What
You
the
can
hell?
you can achieve whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it.
There we go.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, it's more than just hard work. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
saying hard work is not part of it,
Mm-hmm.
but that is not the only way. Okay. So I think we have to pay more attention to kind of where we spend our efforts.
Yeah.
Um, the second one here is nothing is permanent, not the good, not the bad. Again, it seems like such common knowledge but we all get caught up in this trap, I've had bad luck and I'm never going to get out of this shit.
Mm-hmm.
Or wow, things are finally going my way. Things are so great. No, no, no.
Life
Karma
humbles
is a
you.
bitch.
Yeah.
Yes.
Life humbles you.
Um, the third one here, we've spoken about this one before.
Mm-hmm.
Life is not about finding yourself or your purpose. It's about creating yourself.
Yeah.
Um, it's kind of like something which I feel I'm on a little bit of a journey with at the moment. I've now waited long enough for my purpose to manifest itself. Screw that, I'm going to find something that I want to do now.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to try and really be good at
Okay.
that. So, um, the next one is never expect honesty from someone who lied to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I like to assume integrity exists and so on. And I get so pissed off when when I actually see somebody lying to themselves, but I still think I can trust that person. And as I say, these are kind of little lessons that have kind of shown up, came across my path in the last while and so on. So it's something which I'm just going to try and be a little bit more careful,
Mm-hmm.
because you can see when somebody, especially like,
Sorry, I missed
don't you
what you
find
said there. It cut out for a second.
don't you find that it's quite easy to pick up when somebody lied to themselves?
Yeah. I
I
think
think I think so.
yeah, we've spoken about it before about bullshitting yourself, and it's quite hard to bullshit yourself. But I do it a lot actually.
So I'll give you an example which I encounter quite often. you ask somebody, um, listen, you said you were going to do X, Y, and Z. Why didn't you do it?
Mm-hmm.
And then the person starts with, oh, but I've been so busy. I have hardly had. Did you know that I actually did A, B, and C? And thinking, you're missing the point. That's not what I asked.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that you are now continuing to kind of spin this yarn about you're lying to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You do not want to admit to yourself either I forgot about this or I didn't feel like doing it or whatever. Anyway, so I just want to be a bit more aware to look out for things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, and then the last one was just very simple common knowledge again. Life is not fair. It never was and it never will be.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm okay there in terms of I don't begrudge anybody, anything in terms of success and wealth and that sort of thing. I don't feel like the neighbor. Why is the neighbor driving a new car again?
Yeah.
That's. I have absolutely no. Um, and it is. I'm also not feeling shit about what I have achieved. Because life is not fair.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
I
that
don't
is
think those
my.
are particularly ugly truths. They're just truths. Like, especially like nothing is permanent, not the good, not the bad. That's not ugly. It means that you're also going to get through the storm that you feel that you're in at the moment. It
Mm,
just is. It's just realistic. It's not ugly.
yeah, look, I figured I'd put it on the list because you often people want to paint this picture of, just do A, B, and C, just follow this morning routine,
Mm-hmm.
and just do these things, and everything is going to be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Um, and parents with children, I don't
Yeah.
think would we spend enough kind of teaching kids about these little
The bad side of life.
knocks.
Yeah.
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 I'm not saying go and expose your children to some horrible things, but also don't just paint this. Anyway, so that
Yeah.
was the reason I put it on the list.
Can I
Um,
add one thing to the end of your?
yes.
I've been thinking, just because it's something else that I spotted recently, was it was a Ricky Gervais clip where he was talking about people who are offended, and he was talking about the fact that, like, of course people are offended, and how arrogant are you to think that you can go through your whole life with everyone saying things that you agree with and that make you happy and that make you feel good, and that no one should ever offend you. Like, obviously things are going to offend
Absolutely.
you. It's life. And
Yes.
I just really liked the way that he explained it. Was just about, like, of course you're offended. We all get offended. That's
Correct. And
yeah.
you should get comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, I like
yeah.
that. Anyway, just thought I'd
Good
add that
place
to
to
the
end
end
it.
there.
Yeah. Good
Cool.
place to end it. Thank
Well,
you.
I put my gym clothes on this morning, going to gym after work.
Nice. Nice.
And let me give you my little tip, because I mentioned my addiction to eating in the beginning.
Yes.
My latest thing that I do, which I have done intermittently for years, is I write myself a note in the morning to be conscious about what I'm putting into my body and how I'm treating my body. And just by remembering that and thinking about it, it helps me when I reach for the bag of crisps or the chocolate. Or
Okay.
it just, am I being conscious about what I'm doing here? Or is this like just a subconscious thing? So yeah, that's my little tip.
Interesting. Nice.
Cool.
Well, good luck with that.
Thanks.
I'll check in with you on your progress there.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Bye, Herman.
Chat soon.